This is why if you need to cut off family, you should do it. So I was in a relationship with this guy. He was my first boyfriend ever. At first, no one in my family liked him. I don't even know why, because he was literally the sweetest man. He was very romantic and would always buy me gifts. But I wasn't with him because of that. He was just a good person in general. My mom slowly that she liked him, but that wasn't true. Now, I thought the problem was him, but apparently the problem was me. So like I said, this guy comes from a good family. We used to go out every single Saturday and Friday sometimes just to go out to dinner. Well, we dated for about 2 years, but after the first year, he started acting very weird. Like he was asking me for my passwords for all my social media. Anyways, I just thought this was in every relationship. Like I said, he was my first ever boyfriend. Well, I had this best friend, like best friend. We were nothing else. He was even engaged. I'm running out of time. Come back for part 2. Part 2 on if you need to cut off family, go ahead and do it. Well, he was acting very weird about my friend. Like he was asking me questions. And he was just acting very insecure and apparently was jealous of my friend. Like I said, this was a year into the relationship. He knew my friend from the start. Well, one day I get home from school and I see my boyfriend there talking to my mom, which is weird. Like I said, she didn't like him. Well, I say hi to him and he stays for lunch. After he goes home, he breaks up with me via text message. And I ask him why. I thought everything was fine. And he called me a slut. And that's the last time I ever heard anything from him. Long story short, a year after the breakup, he tells me that my mom told him that I was talking with like 3 different men and that he wasn't the only one and that I always do this and that's why I never have a stable relationship. This was all a lie. I moved out. I don't talk to my mother. Family is toxic too. This is why you should be careful who you meet on Tinder. So I was in a really bad relationship, which ended really bad. I spent 3 whole years without wanting to date anyone. Well, my friends told me to download Tinder because it was time for me to be happy. And so I did. Let me tell you that as soon as I downloaded the app, I find this handsome guy. Honestly, he was too good to be true. I don't know how I fell for that. But he was a handsome, tall guy, went to the gym, businessman, never been married, and never had kids, and many more stuff. Well, we texted for about 3 weeks, exchanged pictures, but his pictures were always the same one. There was never a picture with him and like friends. That should have been my red flag, but it wasn't. Well, we decided to go out, and last minute he was like, "Oh, I'm staying at a hotel in your same city. Why don't you just come over here?" I'm running out of time. Come back for part 2. Part 2. He told me to take an Uber and that he would pay for it. So I did. He told me to let him know when I was at the lobby, which I did. And he said, "Oh, my friend's gonna go and get you." I thought he was alone. We never agreed about a friend. Again, red flag, but I didn't listen to it. Well, his friend was a creepy old dude that was like 60. Well, he introduced himself. Then he said, "Let's go." But right there and then, I was like, this is sketchy. Well, I told him no and that I was leaving. He grabbed me by the arm, tried to drag me into the elevator. And I don't know how I got so lucky. There was a group of girls, apparently drunk, but they knew what was going on, and told him that if he didn't get his hands off of me, they would call the cops. Who knows what would have happened to me. Cancel Tinder. Do you just have that one psycho ex? Story time on how I dated a psychopath. And this story is actually mine. And surprise, I met him on Tinder. And we hit it off really quick. Like, we didn't go through that awkward phase where, like, you know, that you're shy. Anyways, my first red flag was when we were just relaxing at his house. And my phone rings and it's my cousin. My boy cousin. Well, he got mad at me. He was going on and how I was cheating on him. Well, whatever. That day I had to go to work, where I was gonna work an overnight. And he actually drove me there. When I tell you he waited for me from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. because according to him, I was cheating on him at work. Long story short, after that day, he would wait for me outside of my job and called me a whore every chance he got. Well, one day I was doing another overnight, but this time I didn't tell him about it. Well, guess who showed up out of nowhere? This is where it gets crazy, so just go to part 2. Part 2 about my psychopath boyfriend. Well, he texted me and told me to go outside, and if I didn't, he would go in the restaurant and make a big scene and let everyone know that I was a whore. So I went outside because I didn't want him to make a big scene. And when I tell you he was bawling his eyes out, talking about how I cheated on him and how he loves me so much. Bullshit. But I actually didn't buy it and broke up with him right there and then. Well, he owed me some money, or he stole some money from me, said he was going to pay it back. So I asked for my money. And he said, oh yeah, I'll have it for you in a few weeks. A few weeks go by and he goes to my house to give me my money. And I tell him, okay, I'm going to open the door for you. Let me know when you're outside. This dude just walks in without my money and threatened me that wherever I was, he was going to find me. Long story short, I didn't get my money back. I was paranoid 3 months. For about 6 months, he wouldn't stop calling my work. And a couple weeks ago, he emailed me. Don't know how. We're talking about how I found my soulmate in my online best friend's boyfriend. And this is not my story. So I'm in a group on Facebook. And one of my members and I started chatting every single day. She was a nice girl and we started a friendship. She lived about 25 minutes away from me. We only talked through text message. One day she told me she was in a dating app. And she met someone and he became her boyfriend. One day she told me that her boyfriend wanted to have a double date. Later to find out that he wanted the date because he wanted to see me in person. Because he had only heard my voice on Facebook. But apparently he felt an attraction just because of my voice. So we went on a double date. And as soon as I walked in the restaurant, I see a tall man with the most beautiful eyes. And then I see her standing next to him. Well, we all sat down for dinner, and I realized that we both were making eye contact, and for long periods of time, smiling at each other every time we spoke. Dinner was over, and we each went our own way. Friend then tells me they had a great time. Go to part 2. Storytime part 2. So apparently they love the double date, so I invited them over to my house for dinner. That night arrived, and again, we were making eye contact. I was definitely attracted to this man. His personality was the same as mine, and his eyes, his smile, insane. Well, the whole night there was a lot of flirting. I didn't realize it was so noticeable until they left, because I could tell something was wrong with my man. Well, all I could do was think about that man. So I shot him a message. Well, we talked, and I decided to give him my number. We first started texting, but then it turned into pictures. Well, we decided to go on a double date again, but it was more for us, because we wanted to see each other. Well, we got together in a hotel. Nothing really happened, just talked. But long story short, we decided to move in together. Husband and I got into a really big fight, and he moved out. My soulmate moved in the next day, and my friend found out that we were together. To tell her that I hoped one day she would forgive me, and she told me that my karma was gonna come. I told her that if my karma was being happy, then let it be. Okay, here's the story time on how I got married with a racist. And this is not my story. This is someone else's story. So this person met her husband at a club. She's from Cuba. He's from Dominican Republic. I don't claim him. But within a year of them dating, he proposed to her. And she said, fuck it, yeah. So they got married and they moved back here to the United States. And he knew since they started dating that she wanted kids. And he said, yeah, I'll give you kids, sure. But every time they, did the dirty, he would wear protection. And about 2 years went by and she got sick of it. And she said, okay, we're not doing the dirty anymore if you keep on wearing protection because I want kids. And for 6 months, they didn't do the dirty because he wanted to use protection. One day he got home drunk. And, he wanted to get his groove on. And she missed her man, so she said, sure. But if you don't wear protection. And he said, okay. I'm running out of time, guys. This is crazy. Go to part 2. Okay, part 2 on how I married a racist. So, she wanted her man. She said, okay, but do not wear any protection. He said, fine. They did the dirty, blah, blah, blah. Everything happened. And he knocked out, right after, went to bed. She was curious enough and she was like, okay, let me go check his phone. So she checked his phone and there was no messages with any other woman, but there was a message with his grandmother and his friend. The messages with his friend said that he wasn't going to have any kids with a monkey. He didn't want any black children. His grandmother didn't know that he was married to a black girl. And apparently the grandmother saw a picture on Facebook of them and asked him who she was. And he told his grandmother that it was his maid. And she saw all those messages, so she woke his fucking dumbass up and asked him about the messages, obviously. Go to part 3. I'm running out of time. Part 3 on how I married a racist. Last part. Again, it's not my story. Also, a little backstory. When they first met, he used to call her the Mona Lisa. But Mona in Spanish means monkey. Whatever, fast forward, he said he didn't want any black kids right now at the moment. She was confused on why. If he was so racist, why would he marry a black girl? Well, she said she wanted a divorce if he didn't give her any kids. So he's like, fine, let's try and have kids. Funny thing is that he got a vasectomy without letting her know. And she felt so bad because she couldn't get pregnant. They even went to doctors to see what was wrong, and everything came out right with her. Long story short, her husband's grandmother apparently got discriminated because of her color. His grandmother is black. Whatever, she went through a lot because of her color. So she always told her kids that she didn't want any black people in her family. He's waiting for his grandmother to die to have kids with his wife.